Welcome back. Now, AI is poised to have a significant impact on the 2024 global elections, both positively and negatively. Generative AI can be used to create targeted messaging, automate election administration tasks, and educate voters. However, it also poses risks like the spread of disinformation through deepfakes, interference in election systems, and algorithmic bias. Countries like Namibia need to be aware of these challenges and take steps to mitigate them. Strengthening election infrastructure, implementing robust security measures, and educating the public on media literacy are crucial. Namibia should also consider joining initiatives such as the AI Elections Accord to coordinate a collective response against deceptive AI election content. To speak more on this, we're joined now this evening by public interest technologist and lecturer of digital communication, Nashilongo Gervasius. Nashilongo, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, Nina. I'm glad to be joining you today. Thanks for having me.
Nashilongo, this is actually such a hot topic as most of the world is expected to have elections this year. Talk to us about how AI is expected to influence, the 2024 elections in Namibia and also around the world.
Thanks again, Nina. And I want to believe that you've already covered so much already in your introduction, really painting the picture on how AI is can be used, for strengthening the information integrity, the electoral information ecosystem during elections. But also, most importantly, that AI is being used to sow disinformation in many of the countries. I think the challenges, or rather the most concern for this year, is because so many countries are going for elections. I think for Africa, it's over about 19 African countries are going for elections. So just the amount of that many countries, but also thinking about the steps that AI actors or innovators are taking in innovating and making sure that should they have the interest, they are posing and sowing disinformation in so many other countries. So that's the biggest challenge. We have seen already from last year when we had elections, for instance, in Zimbabwe and many other countries, that algorithms have been used to sow disinformation within those countries. For Zimbabwe in particular, for instance, we saw I think over 25 targeted disinformation campaigns that were coming into the country, but was originated from elsewhere. So that's the challenges that we are facing in many of the African countries, and for instance, in particular for Namibia as well. Really looking at that as being a challenge. I mean, given the intensity of the campaigns, but also given just the messaging around campaigns and how polarized communities can be given the misinformation that campaigns that can be flying around.
Challenges aside, on the upside, how can countries such as Namibia leverage the potential benefits of AI to improve election administration as well as voter engagement?
Thank you again, Nina. We've seen already how that automated information or automated data related to elections have been used for communicating around elections. I think the past few weeks we've seen the media being on top of the agenda, giving us those numbers already, but not just the media, but all the other actors through the electoral ecosystem. I think the ECN, the Electoral Commission of Namibia, has already started sharing those numbers. How many people are we registering per constituency or per region? And that, I think, tells us that information is very handy, and it is being able to be used in multiple ways to tell the stories. But as you've also mentioned before, that AI can also be used to, to a large extent, automate electoral information, electoral data that is originated from voters through their registration, because such data is so much, right? I mean, just think about how the amount of data that is collected at EC at point of registration. Think of, for instance, how many people are registering from a specific location, how many people are registering of a specific age group, for instance, how many people are registering in this region that came from other regions, for instance. So all of that data can be used to inform the public about the state of registration and where are the people, for instance. But also that kind of information can be used to inform campaign information, for instance, from a political perspective, and then could easily be used to help the public make better decisions from a political side, so from an information consumption perspective, in making sure that they are speaking to the people's needs. When people are getting into the voting area, they are informed. They've got the right information at their hands, for instance. Just, I think, on the tip of the iceberg, Nina.
Nashilongo, also talk to us about what role can international corporations and initiatives such as the AI Elections Accord play in protecting democratic processes from the misuse of AI?
Thanks again, Nina. I mean, we are seeing a lot of those initiatives. I think this week or last week, the UN also shared the electoral information integrity, a sort of stakeholder recommendations, and really asking that players within the countries work together to make sure that they can stand, maybe not firmly, but they can stand together and fight, I think, the biggest challenge, which is misinformation. So, for instance, the UN is recommending that technology companies, AI actors, advertisers, other private sectors, for instance, the news media, researchers and civil society organizations, the state and political actors, as well as the many UN agencies, can work together, can coordinate efforts in making sure that the information that is circulating, particularly on digital platforms or within digital platforms, is legitimate information, and that does not hamper the public or the voters from exercising this human rights of voting. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Well, Nashi, unfortunately, that's all the time we do have this evening. We hope to have a chat about this soon again. As you do know, Namibia is currently in the process of registering voters, and we go to the polls in November. So I think this conversation will come up again in the near future. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and thank you for joining us.
Correct, and thank you, Nina, and thanks for having me. We look forward to engage further on this conversation as we think about data policy and all of these other things that is related to artificial intelligence. Bye, Nina. Thanks.
That was Nashilongo Gervasius joining us via Zoom from Cape Town, talking to us about AI and elections. On that note, we've also come